Fnatic have worked their magic with their new Focus 3 Max mousepad. I'm a massive fan of this thing, and it's quickly become my new go-to mousepad. I'm a bit of a control-oriented gamer, and this thing is perfect for me. I've never really been a big fan of soft pads. You know, I've played with the Saturn Pro before, but that pad has always been a little bit too soft for me. This pad is a lot thicker than the Saturn Pro, but it is firmer, in my opinion. So therefore I get on really well with this pad. It gives me an extra dimension to my aim. Let's get into some of those performance characteristics. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll see you in future videos. All right, so we're going to rattle through some very quick comparisons here before we go on to some of the general observations that I have for the Focus 3 Max. So the Saturn Pro, this pad is very soft, very marshmallowy by comparison to the Focus 3 Max, and by comparison to the Saturn Pro, the Focus 3 Max is much deeper, so it's probably 50% deeper. I think this is 4mm thick, and the Focus 3 Max is 6mm thick, but the Focus 3 Max feels firmer to me. It feels much firmer and more consistent in its squidge, which is why I really like it. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the Vaxee PA. I do really like the Vaxee PA, but it feels a lot slower in its dynamic glide than the Focus 3 Max does. Just as a comparison, you know, it's probably a good maybe 10%, maybe 15% slower than the Focus 3 Max, just going with my eyeballs on that one. And here we are, we have my previous #1 pad, the GSR2. I've used this pad so much and I love this thing. I really like it. I think this is top tier that you should all be considering if you don't have one and you're looking for a good control pad. The GSR2 is a real banger, but there's two issues with it. Two big buts. It's small, so look at the size difference. So this is the size of the Focus 3 Max, and also it's very firm. So if you like firm pads, then the GSR2 might be really good for you. The Focus 3 Max has similar dynamic friction to the GSR2, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong there, but that's how it feels to me. And the main difference, as I say, is the size and the depth. It's really strange to me to be using a pad this deep and to be enjoying it as much as I have been. It has a really nice variance in speed depending on how hard you press on it. So it kind of feels like a combination between the GSR2 when you're pressing lightly and the Vaxee PA, as I said, was 10 to 15% slower. If you press hard on this pad, it kind of feels like a hybrid between those two pads, which is great. I love that dynamism in the variation of the pressure that you apply. Hopefully that was interesting as a whistle-stop tour comparison to those pads. Fnatic are releasing 2 mouse pads for us in May. So they've got the Dash, which is a speed-oriented pad. I don't have that one. And then we've got the Focus, which is the one I've got here. But I'm really happy with the Focus, and I'm so happy with this one that I'm planning to buy the Dash myself when it comes out after release. I'm super happy with how this one's performing. I want to talk to you now about the unboxing experience. So the Focus arrives curled up in its packaging. It comes in kind of a cylindrical box. It is quite bent initially out of the box, but if you just lay it flat and leave it for a few hours, it will flatten itself out over time. You should absolutely not bend the stitches to the surface of the pad to help with that straightening out process. Apparently this will ruin your pad and you would never find me doing something like this. The FAQs for the pad are really useful, and I'll put a link to those down below so you don't make the same mistake as me. So the stitching on the Fnatic pad is really good. I don't have any real issues with it at all, and the depth of the pad helps here, I think. It's not been at all irritable to me or noticeable in any way, which in my opinion makes it perfect. The colour of the pad looks orange under my desk light, but in natural daylight, maybe I'm going crazy. It looks a little bit more peach to me, and I'd personally prefer it to be a deeper orange colour, but I do recognise the Dash is a deeper orange colour, so maybe that's why the Focus is a lighter hue to help differentiate them a bit. So just bear that in mind. If you want a really orange pad, go for the Dash potentially. You know, check some other reviews on that one first, but this one is orange, but it's a lighter hue of orange. So there are two sizes you can buy of these pads. I've got the 480 by 480 square, which is pretty much bang on perfect for me. I really like this size. It fits lovely on my desk, and I have a lot of confidence in playing on this pad because I don't worry about running out of space at all. The other option is a 480 by 400 pad, which is just less verticality, which may work better for you. The pad is advertised with a coating. The coating is water repellent, and that fills me with a little bit more confidence with the pad because it is so unbelievably thick. It's 6mm thick. It feels to me intuitively that it would act like a sponge if you dropped water on it. So the fact that it has a coating that will help repel the water is great, and as that coating degrades, Fnatic have stated that it just won't affect the glide properties of the pad, so that's also really positive in my book. So one of the main things about this pad which differentiates it, I think, from the competition is how deep it is, so the depth of the pad. 6mm doesn't sound like a lot, but most pads that come out these days are between 3 and 4. 6mm deep on a pad is crazy to me. It's super comfortable, it's super plushy, and it's really functional too. I've actually grown to love this in this pad. I think this is the reason why I prefer it now, potentially, over the GSR2, which was my number one without a doubt before. So I really love the base of this pad. I've talked about it already, I'm going to talk about it again now. So it is firmer than my LG Saturn Pro, which is the soft version, but it is way deeper. This allows me to play fast when I want to, or dig in with some pressure when I need it. And it feels like I have another tool at my disposal that has never clicked for me before on other pads, mostly because they felt too soft. Maybe I'm just imagining the firmness that I mentioned, but it works well for me at the moment. So it's really strange to me that I've taken to this pad so much because of how thick and plushy it is, bearing in mind I played exclusively for 12 months on hard pads up until very recently. So the base of the pad is really nice. It's not too sticky, you know, like you see some of these people pulling cards with their mouse pads. It's not that level of stick, but it is certainly a level of stick that I would want on my mouse pads. You know, it sticks enough to the desk so that it won't move, and you'll kind of get that peeling sensation when you want to take it off. It peels off the desk when it's been on there for an hour or two, which is kind of the right level of stick. You don't want to have to rip it off, just kind of lift it up and hear it's kind of satisfyingly pull off. That's what I really like about the base on this pad. So the surface of the Fnatic also feels really comfortable. It's not at all scratchy, like I mentioned with the Saturn Pro. It's really smooth, there's no abrasion there whatsoever, and it's a joy to use in that sense. So the biggest downside for this pad, in my opinion, is the price. I think it is quite expensive, but I do genuinely feel like it is worth the price that you pay for it. It feels really unique. It offers a really nice controlled gaming experience, and it's super comfortable to use. I feel super confident on this pad in ways that I haven't felt on other pads, and I think that's because it kind of holds my hand a bit with the plushiness and the speed that it offers, being nice and controlled, you know. It's a really good combination to have. So I think it's worth the money, assuming that it stands the test of time. And I've used this pad from the day that it arrived, probably about 6 weeks ago. It hasn't come off my desk since then, and it still feels great. It still feels perfect like it did when I received it. I can't feel any break-in periods, so it feels the same as far as I can tell. You know, the corners at the top feel just as good as the areas down here that get used very frequently. The only thing I can see is that this bit here where my arm rests is slowly starting to discolor. So that's where my arm kind of rests on the pad, and I can see the orange is even lighter there than it is higher up on the pad. So that's just a little bit of discoloration, just to bear in mind. Assuming the performance stays the same on the pad, which I would assume it would, then I think it's a banger for the price. And if you don't mind the discoloration at the bottom, I think it's a winner. So I've had some really good sessions playing on this pad, which is why it hasn't left my desk. I typically perform relatively well with my tracking on any pad that I use, and I don't always perform very well with my flicking. But my flicking on this pad has been really, really good, at least compared to what it's like on other pads. And I think that's because of how plushy it is. It feels like a deeper GSR2, which is a pad that I love, and the extra depth gives me an extra little bit more confidence just to swing my flicks across and stop on a dime. So I feel super confident in that aspect. My tracking has been excellent on this pad too, at least for my skill set. So maybe not excellent by yours, but for my skill set, it's been performing really nicely in all scenarios I've thrown at it. And I find myself now picking up a combination of tracking and clicking weapons in the games I play because I feel confident enough to do it with this mouse pad. So I haven't actually aim trained very much in recent months. I prefer actually playing games these days than I do to aim training. And I'm not throwing shade at aim training at all, by the way. But when I got this pad, I booted up Kovacs just to test it out in a very quick sort of condensed testing exercise. And I found that despite the fact that I haven't played Kovacs for a long time, I almost hit a few personal bests, which is crazy because when I hit those personal bests, I was grinding Kovacs every day. And to be able to have the confidence in my aim with this pad on the first time to almost beat those scores was really cool to me. So overall, I think I've covered everything I want to cover. It's a really good pad. I'm not sponsored by Fnatic at all. All they've done is send me the pad to test and review. That's what you get here. I'm hoping to do the same with the Dash when it arrives. I'm expecting it to be just as good, just a bit faster. So I'm gonna go check out some of the other reviews now. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think down below. Have I answered your questions? If not, bang them in the comment section and I'll hopefully see you down there. All right, peace out, cheers now.